Hello and welcome to Make It Happen with Will Polston. I'm Will Polston. This is episode number 37, and in this episode we're going to be talking about key leaders. Now, a leader is, according to Google, because that's where we go when we want to search for things, a person who leads or commands a group, organisation or country, which I think is really interesting because that actually probably wouldn't be my definition these days. And the reason I say that is because a person who commands a group, organisation or country is sort of sounds quite dictatorial, doesn't it? Whereas these days, for me, a leader can be someone that is just living in a particular way that you might look up to. And I've been very passionate about the subject of leadership. I read books about it. I subscribe to articles about it. I look into people. In fact, there's a fantastic quote that I first heard from a guy called David Heiner, who is an incredible guy, and I'm going to get him on the podcast very, very soon. And he said one of his favourite quotes was, "Don't look up to people, look into people." And I think it was Chris Akabusi that said that. I could be completely wrong, but when we get him on the podcast, we'll soon find out. But regardless of who it was, what was really important was the quote: "Don't look up to people, look into people." And I think it's really, really, really important thing to do. And I believe that you lead or are led. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and a place to be led. However, being able to step up and be a leader is very important, whether that be in sport, work, relationships with friends, the list goes on. And I'm often thinking about leaders that inspire me and people that have inspired me in the past, and people continue to inspire me today. In fact, I actually keep a list, and this is something that I recommend that you do as well, is get a piece of paper or get your notepad out or your laptop and whatever and type, and write a list of people that inspire you, that influence you and that you trust. Now, these can be people that are in close proximity to you, so friends, family. These can be people that you've never met in your life and may not meet in your life, whether that be certain sports people or celebrities, business leaders, whatever. Or it could even be people that don't exist anymore in the current in the form that they once did, i.e. they've passed away. So you can read autobiographies and you can find out about them. Obviously, these days there's so many fantastic resources: podcasts, books, YouTube, online courses. There's so many ways that you can go and learn about these people that you look up to. But what I like to do is I like to keep this list of people, and I make a point that every 90 days I check in some way with these people. So some of them I subscribe to their email list. So for example, Tim Ferris, he's just one example of someone that influences me, that I admire and trust. I'm on his email list. Every week I get an email from him. I don't necessarily read it every week, but certainly a couple of times a month I'll be reading that, seeing what he's up to and getting to learn a little bit more about how he thinks. That's just one example. But I'd say there's quite a lot of people on my list these days. There's sort of a good few dozen that I have on the list. Obviously, my mum and dad are on my list. They're key ones that stand out to me. But one that really stands out to me, and I know I've mentioned this in the past, is particularly my Uncle Steve. Now, my Uncle Steve's a real cheeky chappy. He left school with no qualifications, and he actually sort of shares the story that he had 74 PAYE jobs before he started out his own business, and he's now he's a very successful businessman. But the thing that a lot of people might think is that the reason that he's my choice of someone that I deem that's sort of a key leader in my life is because he is a successful businessman, but it's not. And to help you explain, what I would like to do is ask you this very simple question. When you were a child, who did you most look forward to seeing with affection, and why? So, like I say, for me, it was my Uncle Steve, and sort of aside from my parents and my Uncle Steve, and a few reasons why, it was because he was fun. He was really enthusiastic. He was positive. He had lots of energy. He didn't talk down to me. He always made me feel that sort of I was on the level. He made me feel that I mattered and that I was important. He was present and gave me time and energy. He encouraged me, and he believed in me. He made me feel that I could do anything that I set my mind to. Now, all throughout his life and my life, he's treated me the same way, and he's continued to have that profound effect on me. And how is my Uncle Steve any different from those in leadership roles in business or sport or any other field? I don't think that there is, I mean, I think that those sort of things that I felt were how we want to feel when we're led by other people. I mean, for me, those are still the qualities that bring out the best in me. And what I try and do now, and I don't necessarily do it consciously, but when I sort of sit back and reflect on it, that's something I try and do for other people. I try and make sure that I'm fun, I'm the cheeky chappy, I'm enthusiastic and positive and have lots of energy. I do my absolute utmost to not talk down to people and treat everyone on the same level. I do my best to make everyone feel that they matter and that they're important. I love encouraging people and giving them that inspiration and sometimes those words of wisdom to nudge them along. And I believe in people, it's really interesting. With a lot of the clients that I've worked a little bit closer with, one of the things that they say is that's really, really interesting for me when they tell me this is, Will, it's just great knowing that I've got someone that believes in me. And I think that's because so many people, they don't have that level of self-belief. They can't see the whole picture when they're in the frame, the same way you can't see the label when you're in the when you're in the jar. When someone else can see what's possible for you, it's amazing what can happen. And something that I want you to consider is, when you're leading, what do you want those that you lead to feel about you? And also another question to ask and to reflect back on is, when you were a child, who did you look forward to seeing with affection and why? And what can you take from that and apply when you're being a leader today, whether it be a boss, a parent, a friend, or a lover? So look, I hope you found that useful. Until next time, make it happen.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Make It Happen with Will Polston podcast. Make sure you join Will's free Facebook group, the Make It Happen community. Please support the show by subscribing on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, or Google Play. Share this episode with at least one friend you think would benefit from it, and give Will a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Until next time, make it happen.